Picture this. Florida, 1989. A quiet highway, middle of the night. A man pulls over. There's a woman standing on the side of the road, blonde, tired eyes, thumb out. He thinks he's doing a good thing. He thinks he's helping someone. That was the last decision Richard Mallory ever made. The woman's name was Aileen Wuornos, and between 1989 and 1990, 7 men stopped to help her, and never made it back home. The media called her a monster. Hollywood made a movie about her. The state of Florida sentenced her to death, and the sentence was carried out. But here's what nobody wanted to talk about. What made her? Because monsters aren't born. They're built, slowly, quietly, by the people and systems that were supposed to protect them. And Aileen Wuornos was broken long before she ever held a gun. Stay with me, because this story goes much deeper than the headlines. Let's talk about what happened, because we're not going to skip it. We're not going to look away. Between November 1989 and November 1990, Aileen was involved in incidents that led to the deaths of 7 men in Florida. All of them were men who had picked her up while she was working as a sex worker on the highway. The victims were Richard Mallory, David Spears, Charles Carskadden, Peter Seams, Troy Burris, Charles Humphreys, Walter Gino Antonio. When police started finding the bodies, they were looking for a man. It didn't even cross their minds that a woman could be responsible. That tells you something about 1989. That tells you something about how we see women, even dangerous ones. When they finally found her, sitting in a biker bar in January 1991, cameras from around the world showed up. Everyone wanted to see the monster. What they saw was a tired, hollow-eyed woman who looked at the court and said, "I acted in self-defense." The jury didn't believe her. Most people didn't believe her. But here's something that got buried. Richard Mallory, the first man involved in the case, had previously been convicted of violent sexual assault. That information didn't come out in court. I'm not saying that justifies anything. I'm saying the story is more complicated than the headline, "Female Serial Killer," allows. Now let's go back, way back, to a little girl in Michigan who never had a chance. Aileen Carol Wuornos was born on February 29, 1956, in Rochester, Michigan. Her father, Leo Dale Pittman, was a man with a serious criminal history. He was in prison when she was born. He never met her. He later died while incarcerated. Her mother, Diane Wuornos, was only 14 when she gave birth to Aileen. She couldn't handle it. When Aileen was 4 years old, her mother walked away. Just left. Aileen and her brother Keith were placed in the care of their grandparents. 4 years old, abandoned. Her grandfather, Lori Wuornos, was an alcoholic. Aileen later said she experienced severe abuse in that home. The family denied it. But what no one denied was this. No one in that house made Aileen feel safe. No one made her feel loved. No one made her feel like she mattered. By the age of 11, she was exchanging sexual attention at school for cigarettes, food, and validation. 11 years old. At 13, she experienced a traumatic assault. At 14, she became pregnant. She gave birth alone. The baby was taken from her immediately. She never held him. Shortly after, her grandmother passed away. Her grandfather kicked her out. She was 14 years old, alone, no money, no home, no family. She went into the woods of Michigan. She slept outside. She ate from garbage cans. And to survive, she did the only thing she had ever been taught had value: her body. For the next decade, Aileen drifted across America, hitchhiking, surviving, disappearing. She was arrested multiple times for assault, theft, and public disorder. She briefly married an older man in his 70s, but she was still full of anger and hatred toward men, so she was very aggressive, and her behavior didn't match that of a 70-year-old man. She struggled with heavy alcohol use. She lived in constant crisis. And through all of it, no system ever intervened. No one stopped and said, "This child needs help." She fell through every crack there was, until there were no cracks left. Just the highway, the darkness, and a breaking point. You didn't come this far to stop here. Subscribe and go deeper with Obscura Mind. Now I want you to hold everything you just heard and bring in another name. Oprah Winfrey. Born into poverty in rural Mississippi, raised by a strict grandmother who punished her for small mistakes, moved between relatives who didn't want her, experienced early childhood trauma starting at age 9, pregnant at 14, lost the baby. Same age as Aileen. Same kind of pain. Same world that looked away. But here's where the story split. Oprah had a moment. One teacher, one person, who looked at her and said, "You've got something. Don't waste it. That was it. That was the difference. Not willpower, not character, just one human being who stayed. Oprah took that moment and built an empire from it. She turned trauma into testimony, pain into power, her story into a lifeline for millions. Aileen never had that moment. No one showed up. Not once. And I think about that a lot. Here's where I'm going to challenge you, and I mean that respectfully. It's easy to watch a story like Aileen's and land in one of two places. Either, she made her choices, we all have free will, or, she was a victim, she had no choice. But both are too simple, and I think you know that. Because the real question isn't whether she had free will. The real question is, what does free will even look like when you've been abandoned at 4, deeply traumatized at 11, harmed at 13, homeless at 14, and invisible to every system that was supposed to protect you? Is that the same kind of choice we experience every day? I'm not asking you to forgive her. Lives were lost, families were destroyed. That is real. That matters. But I am asking you to do something harder than judgment. Look around your life and ask yourself, is there someone in your orbit who is slipping through the cracks right now? A kid who looks angry but is actually terrified. A teenager who acts out but is silently asking for help. Someone who pushes everyone away because everyone has always left. Oprah had one person, just one, and it changed everything. Aileen had none, and we know how that story ended. You might be someone's one person, without even realizing it. The difference between light and darkness is sometimes just one human being who chooses to stay. So I'll leave you with this. Who are you showing up for? And if the answer is no one, why not? Reality is never the full story. Obscura.